So after a certain point of bumping my head, I'm fed up with getting whooped for all these different infractions. And so I called my mama begging and pleading, trying to, Mama, please come pick me up. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. Please pick me up. I want to go home, please. She talking about, it's okay. It's not that bad, honey. It's just a summer. You'll be okay. I'm like, God, why hast thou forsaken me? My own mother? Oh, I'm stuck here in this farmer hell. And so my last saving grace was to ask my mom to get my bring my bike. And she did bring my bike, but that wasn't no help. First of all, my bike came and I messed it up real quick because I was riding around in the driveway and I was going too fast and my brakes didn't work and I was headed towards the garage, but somehow I lifted up like I was going on a wheelie and I rode up the face of the garage and fell straight on my back. The bike fell on me, and this one of the supports on my bike broke at that point, so that was the end of riding my bike that summer. What my grandfather did do was he taught me how to hustle. He taught me how to hustle. That summer, I made $175. Now, let me tell you, all this money is made from selling all that produce that I told you that he was growing. We would go hit the fields, pull the corn up off the stalks, load it up, go put that in the truck to sell. We go across the street and go down into the watermelon patches and yank up the ones that was ready to go. And then across the street to the left, he had all these areas that he must have been leasing land from some people. He owned his land, but he was leasing some from across the street, from up this way, from round the way. He had all these plots that he had. So on the one across the street this way is the watermelon. Back in his fields is the corn. And then across over this way is the tomatoes. And he had another area that he had tomatoes as well. And then he had the cows at his land. And then there was another area, I don't know, maybe about 15, 20 minutes away from the house that he had some more cows. He only had one bull on his property, but over on the other property, it was about maybe, I think it was about 3 or 4 bulls out there. So I make $175 during this entire summer selling produce. And I have this little cardboard box. I don't even know what the box came from or how I got it, but it was a little square, perfect little square cardboard box, had a little opening on it, just like that. I used to keep my little money in there like a drug money stash. That was the shoebox money. I just tuck it in there, I roll it up, you know what I'm saying? Have me a little wad, just roll it up, and I count that money every night. Count my little money every night. Saw that thing growing from nothing to something, you know what I'm talking about? So I was just counting my little bread, boy, and I felt like I saw it growing. I didn't spend none of my money either. I didn't spend none of my money. And I was just counting that thing up, stuffing it in my box, waiting, just stuffing my money in my box. When we would go into town and peddle all the produce, there was this main buyer. There were some places that we would go, somebody would buy just like a bushel, or somebody would buy, they just wanted a little bit, somebody wanted a little bit. So we sell it to him. He also wove baskets. He had all sorts of baskets and shelves and bins that he knew how to weave and create all that stuff straight from hand. And I would take either like a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket, or like one of those baskets that he would weave. And then we would sell the different portions of corn and various produce in that fashion: corn, tomatoes, snap peas, all of those things. The dopest memory is that there was this guy that had a market. It's not there anymore, but he had a small market that had this little overhang to it, and you could drive through, kind of like a gas station, but it was all about the produce. It was selling produce at his spot. And we'll pull up on him and he buy damn near everything in the truck. And that was the flyest. Like, that felt so good to just be working so hard all morning, all the day long on the farm, doing all this business. You get this thing loaded up, and then the next thing, you roll up on this man, you already got a customer to sell to, and he taking corn in droves. He taking watermelon, and I mean a whole bunch of them, yellow meat and red meat watermelons, and he taking tomatoes too. And then I'm doing the transaction with him. He telling me what he need, I'm giving it to him, and he giving me the money. And my granddad said, Do the business with that boy. Yeah, that's the man. Do the business with him. So he's he's teaching me how to do business, and it felt amazing. It felt amazing. And he let me once when I it wasn't like I would do the transaction and he say hand me the money and then cut me a portion. I would do the transaction, take the money, put it in my pocket, and then get gone. And that's how he let it go the whole time. So teaching me how to do this and giving me the authority to do it, and then speaking to the people to do the transaction with me so that they handle it with me like I'm him, was an amazing experience, and I appreciate him for doing that. I didn't have the appreciation for it then at all. No, it he was a country terrorist for me. Yeah, I'm saying it was a hard thing. Back on the farm, he would have me out there feeding the cows. I would have to go and carry out salt blocks. Salt blocks are huge. If you've never seen them, I don't know if they come in other colors, but the ones that he had, they were like chocolate color, like chocolate ice cream. They look like the color looks like chocolate ice cream, like a hard, smooth cube of chocolate ice cream. But you take this big old block and you chuck it, you pull the little wrapping off it, chuck it over the fence, and the cows just come licking that thing. Cows just come licking that salt block. It looked like it's good, but it ain't nothing but a big old block of salt for them. And I would have to put the salt blocks out for the cows. When he had the chickens and the pigs, we would feed them. He had this for the chickens, he had this, I don't know what the feed actually was, but I remember it looking like corn, like dried corn. And it smelled funny. And this he had a big red warehouse up, or red farm building up in the front of the driveway, and he used to keep all of the feed and things like that up inside of there. Like I was saying before, we feed that bread to the goats, and then the pigs had this area near where the corn was, but just way off in that area. And so I had to go down there. I usually fill their troughs up with water, and then I have to help with the slop sometimes too. Now, if you never been around feeding pigs slop, that's some nasty business. Like pigs will eat anything, and it don't matter if it's old, if it's stank, if it they love that, and they just nasty. So the thing people be telling you about how nasty pigs are is so true. They don't care nothing about it. They get down, and they just be down there oinking. It be the big pigs, the little pigs, they just be going to town. But I was out there serving them fools that slop, you know what I'm saying? Just ah, ugh. Whenever we would have customers come through to pick up a goat, you don't sell them the goat living. You give that thing to them at a commission. My granddad would go out there, run it down, grab that thing, bleed it down, and once that was done, hand you your goat, and you was on your way about it, straight like that. It was raw. That man got the business. And then he also, I've been to a auction for cows. Somebody recently was talking about how there was something floating around where a man had a glove that went all the way up to his shoulder, and then he had his hand inside of a cow. Well, they do that to check and see if that cow is pregnant, because then that makes that cow worth a whole lot more money. And out in that auction with them, people be like 45, blah, 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 55, blah, blah, blah. So they had that whole situation is real. That everything that you be seeing in movies and all that stuff is actually real. That whole thing, and it smell putrid. It don't smell. It's not pleasing at all. It smells like doo doo the whole time, and it's not like human doo. It's cow doo doo, cow patty doo doo. It's stank. And the crazy thing is, once you be around it so long, you just get used to it. You look, humans can adapt to anything. You could even adapt to putrid smells to a point to where you don't smell certain stuff after a while, or you don't smell it nearly as difficult. And I know you probably don't believe it if you ain't never experienced it, but yeah, it was something, man. It's wild. And then people be getting down in there. Them people don't play. Like, don't let the smooth taste fool you. Like, people who is farmers and cowboys and all this stuff, that's business. Like, this is business. People out there getting their business on, and like, people making money and moving money. Like, it looked dirty and all that, but it's money being moved. And that brings us to the end of summer. Back home, back to the city. With me and my mom, we dealt with a lot of hard times, but my mom did a really good job of making sure that I didn't feel it as intensely as I could. Now that I can do the math and I can analyze the era from the skill set that I have today, financially, I can see how rough it was for us. But my mom did a really good job of taking care of me to the point to where I noticed to some degree, but I always had food in my belly and we always had the lights on. It was never a circumstance where the lights got cut off. They were only in jeopardy like once, and it wasn't her fault. It was something else that happened. So other than that, it wasn't nothing but hurricanes and things like that that would knock the lights out. So in that respect, we were always solid. I could see it in ways of like I could only get one pair of shoes for the school year. I could either choose to go to Payless and I could get two pair of shoes, or I could go to, one of the department stores and I could get me a brand name shoe. But if I get that brand name shoe, I need to choose well because I am not getting another shoe no matter what happens to that shoe. I remember I had chose up on some these Reeboks. They was like blue and white back then. Man, I turned them things to orange about like in the first week or 2 weeks, and I had to wear them things for the rest of the school year. My clothes was never no name brand situation or nothing like that, but I don't really remember caring too much about that. The only thing I cared about was like maybe a jersey or something like that at some point, wanting a Orlando Magic jersey, like back whenever Shaq was doing his thing early on, Orlando Magic. I had wanted one of them or something like that. But that was probably it. It wasn't no big thing. I didn't really care too much about that stuff back then. But the thing about having hard times back then was that there were some points where we did need help from my grandfather. 'Cause my father had left, like my father left somewhere between whenever I'm like 7 and 11. I can't really recall which point it was because there's something in my memory that I've blocked out something like that. So I probably need to see a therapist so I could unblock that and figure out what all that is or whatever. But I remember that my father left it around about that point. And when he left, things started to get hard. So there were some points where we needed help, but the problem with it was that anytime you needed help from my grandfather financially, he would give you just this crazy rundown of how incompetent you are. He just berates you and all this stuff. At the end of his whole tirade on you, then he would help, but it was like you had to go through letting your whole self get melted down for him to help you, and then you would get help. But he would help you, and that was who we could reach to if we needed help, and that was the case. And each time, so it was a dreadful thing to reach to Granddad for help because you knew it was going to come with him just eating your lunch, and it was just the worst thing. Fast forward, I go off to college. You know what I'm saying? The illustrious FAMU, that's Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University for those of you. Yes, indeed. I went to college, and there were some points where I needed some help. I'm a college student. I'm a college student on financial aid. I come from nothing. I'm also working while I'm in college. I'm doing all right in college. Like I'm not perfect or nothing like that, but I'm doing pretty good, especially before I get into my major classes. You know what I'm saying? Boy, doing all right. But I'm needing some financial help. Mama can't help me. I reach out to my granddad for some help. He goes bad on me, but he helps me, of course. I think while I'm in college, I reach out to get some help from him maybe 4 times. The fourth time, I remember reaching out to him for some help, and he went bad on me and did that whole thing. And that was the first time I think I had a conversation with him where I bucked up against him. Cause like at this point I'm in college, but I'm grown, or at least I feel grown. And I'm like, man, I'm out here working. I'm doing college. I don't have nobody pregnant. I'm not running around in the streets. I'm really trying to do something with myself. And I need help from you. I need $450 worth of help. This is what I need. And that point, I remember I'm asking him for the help. He starts going in. I'm like, hey, man, look, hey, listen, I called you for help. I didn't call you to be berated and done in like this. I was like, listen, if this is going to be the case, Just forget it. I'll figure it out. I would rather struggle than to get your help in this circumstance. And that was probably right around the time. It was probably one of my worst times when I'm in college too. Cause I remember there was a point while I was in college where it was so bad that I had to choose between paying for my gas. I had my last $20. I had to pay for my gas so I could go to work, or I was gonna have to use that to get food, and I could not do both. And so I put that money in my gas tank, and now I need food. So I'm like, all right, and it clicked. I had remembered there was a possibility that you can get food from a food bank. So I remember going to the library at FAMU. This is a point, like, it ain't like I don't even have a computer at this point. I go to the library at FAMU. I think I had to get like time on the computer, but whatever it was, I went and got on the computer, and then I found where the food bank was, and I pulled up on them, and sure enough, they was able to give me a bag of food, and that food saved your boy life. I'm forever grateful for the food bank for holding me down in that situation. I know that canned chicken wasn't nothing healthy to do, man, but that thing helped my life, boy. I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Word to the wise, if any of y'all is in college and y'all struggling, man, see if it's a food bank around you to just to help you connect them dots and just 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 thread that needle, man. Just get right through that little point. That thing will save your life. I'm telling you. After that situation happened, whenever I asked him for help, I didn't ask him for help anymore from that point. I just was living my life doing my thing. And he always had this thing of when he would call me up out the blue, he would call me, and it wasn't like he had a weird way. He was checking on you in his own way, but he wouldn't call you, hey, how you doing, what's going on, yeah, oh, good, that's good. Nah, it wasn't like that. He was checking on you to make sure that you was in line the way that he thought you should be falling in line, and he would call in to give you game that he should have gave you years ago. I'm at this point, I'm in corporate America. I'm already in corporate America, and I'm doing my thing, and I don't know, at this point, maybe I'm like 27 or something, or 25. And he's giving me game he should have given me when I was 18, when I'm 17. I'm like, yeah, thanks, Granddad. Yeah, I'll take that into consideration. I'm like, brother, we are so far past that point. But that was his way. And he always say things like, oh boy, you got to get out here like these white boys. Yeah. Don't be sitting down here like no ninja boy, sitting around on your thumb. No, you got to get up and shake your shimmy. He he always has some kind of little thing like that he would say to tell you, hey, you got to get up here. You got to work twice as hard as these other people. You can't afford to sit still. But he wouldn't tell it to you like that. He had his little farmer poetry to help you move along. So for the instance that caused us to have beef, I don't even remember what the reason was that we had the fallout. I remember I remember the circumstance of the phone call, though, because again, it was one of these calls where he said something and got out of line. And I don't know if he said something about me or if he said something about my mother, but something about what he told me rubbed me the wrong way. And I gave him the whole kit and caboodle on the phone. Like, I was like, I unloaded on him, and I was like, now listen, if you can't call my phone respectfully with some kind of care, then you can't call my phone. Don't call my phone with disrespect or talking sideways about me or my mother or anything of the sort. I'm not having it. I'm not 12 years old no more, and you can't run that on me. I'm not that kind of guy. I ain't never been that kind of guy, and I'm not about to start this day, not for you, not for nobody on the planet of Earth. So, if you can't call respectfully, then don't call. At that point, I ain't talked to him for 3 years. Well, in that space, my grandmother died. My grandmother died. I didn't even know. I didn't even know she was sick. And the thing is, It wasn't like he had no cell phone. It wasn't like she had a cell phone. It wasn't like separate lines or like they were separated. If I wasn't talking to my granddad, that means vicariously I'm not talking to my grandma. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And yeah, she passed away. I hadn't talked to her. If I'm not talking to him, I hadn't talked to her. So I hadn't talked to her in all them years either. And then the next time that I'm even in the presence of them or the property or that space, she's passed. And that was part of the price of holding that kind of anger, that kind of pent up frustration about a thing. And I had to move my mother from Pensacola to Talladega at a certain point because at that point my grandfather had come down with cancer. Well, at the point where I started talking to him again, he is in stage 4. Anybody that knows anything about cancer is that if you in stage 4, it's a wrap. It's over with. You're on the way out. And what cancer does to people is it sucks the soul out of them. It takes everything that you have in the life of your body and it just pulls it out like Shang Tsung pulling the soul out of the competitor on Mortal Kombat. It just takes it out of you and then you are a shell of what you used to be. You shrivel away. You turn into, it's like a raisin. You just evaporate until you no more. You ain't got nothing but soul left. And so I pull up, U-Haul packed with my mom's entire life, unload, get everything situated. I look at my grandfather. I realize he doesn't even know that we had an issue. I realize I'm the only person on the planet of Earth with this so-called issue between me and him that has been running around here with this problem on my chest all this time. Losing valuable time that I could have been learning my family, spending time with my family, talking to my grandma, making memories, asking my grandfather questions that only he can answer. And indeed, you need time to ask a man like that questions because he don't readily give up information. And I done squandered all that time because I wanted to be mad about something and hold it. That was probably one of the catalysts in my life that made me decide I would never live with regrets anymore and I would never walk around like that anymore. I'm not saying I fully changed and decided to do all that at that point because I still had some pent up anger and frustration with my father too. That's another story though. We're going to get there. But yeah, man, I got all that on me. I done burnt up all this time. Look at my grandfather, stage 4. This man, he greets me with open arms and all that. He don't even know. He don't even have a clue I was mad.